Welcome to the YouTube channel for a podcast named Tim. We are a father and son movie review podcast. Each week on our podcast, we discuss 3 movies a week, main feature, and 2 movies that, in some respects, complement that movie. And we're available everywhere podcasts are. That is Stitcher, Spotify, iTunes, Castbox, Anchor. If it's somewhere where podcasts can be, we are probably there. So please do, of course, subscribe to not only this YouTube channel, but also to the show on whatever podcast app you listen to it on. That does a lot to boost the channel, boost the reputation of the show, get it out there, exposure, all that good stuff. But basically, we've decided to add a YouTube channel to our repertoire in order to basically give you little snippets of some clips of the shows. On the show, it's typically 45 minutes to an hour length because we're discussing 3 movies and other things that have been going on throughout the week. And we're going to cut these down to basically just a particular movie. So each episode will be just one movie we're discussing, and you'll get to hear our thoughts on that. Kind of the way we do the show, it's some trivia, and then just some general discussion. We're not, although I am dressed like a snobby film critic, we don't claim to be those in any regard. We are just 2 average guys in some respects who enjoy movies. So we kind of pitch the show and do the show as the moment when you walk out of the movie theater and you turn to whoever you just saw it with and said, "What did you think?" And that's kind of how we like to keep the show, with a little bit of trivia and other things mixed in. So again, hope you will enjoy this. This is the first episode for the YouTube channel. It was also our first episode for the podcast. We're going to get everything on the YouTube channel, hopefully catch up, and then keep going from there. But with this one, it's going to be Star Trek II, The Wrath of Kahn. So enjoy the audio from our first pilot episode of the podcast. For Wrath of Kahn, I was thinking about this earlier, when you were growing up, obviously the original Star Trek show was done because you were born late 60s, right?
Right.
So Star Trek was done. Had you watched the original series before seeing the movie, or did you watch the movie and then go, okay?
Yes, absolutely. I had seen all the series, and unfortunately had seen the first Star Trek, the motion picture.
Which is terrible.
But some people love. I absolutely hated. It turned me totally against Star Trek. The only reason I gave this one a try actually is I had free tickets to it.
Really? Okay.
Yes, I had free tickets and went. I took your grandmother, or your grandmother took me, I guess, and we went and saw it, and I loved it because they kind of put the humor back into it. It was more of a personal feel. That first one was just trying to be out there in the nebula a little too much.
I can't even tell. I mean, I've seen the first one, but I couldn't even tell you what happened in it because I think I've only watched it once, and that was enough.
That's all I remember is the bald chick.
Yes, yeah, I remember that too, and V'ger or something like that. And what's funny what you say about that, about them like making it more Star Trek-y feeling, is that I was listening to the director's commentary, and they said the guy who directed it was like, I didn't watch Star Trek. He's like, I didn't like Star Trek. I didn't get it. And so it's just really weird that he made like the pinnacle of Star Trek.
Well, there you go.
Literally, he actually said, I don't know if you remember this, the opening scene, the opening shot is Spock's ear. They zoom out from Spock's ear. He said, "Oh, I knew people associated Star Trek with Spock's ear, and so we opened up on Spock's ear."
Wow.
Yes. It was fascinating to listen to some of that. So I'm the opposite. I think me and you had seen some of the Next Generation movies. Never watched the Next Gen show, but we had seen some of those movies. Then I saw this, and then I think I went back and watched the original series. It's kind of like a weird mix. So
now, did you go back to watch Spacey to see where this movie started, or did you actually watch it in order?
I don't remember. I don't remember about that, but I love this movie. Excellent. If you know what's funny though, I was thinking about it. One of the things that I had always thought for some reason in my head, I knew it came out in the 80s, but because the show was from the 60s, I associated the movie with the 60s.
Right.
And because of that, this is really weird. This is how my mind works. So because I associated this with the '60s, I also associated it with Planet of the Apes. And what my point is that Planet of the Apes is so slow. I like it. I love Planet of the Apes, but it's slow. And so to me, I always thought Wrath of Khan was slow, but I watched it back a couple times this week, and it was well paced.
Oh, wow. That was very fast. It was really fast.
Yeah, no, it's just, I had this mental thing in my head that, well, this is from the '60s, even though it wasn't. And Planet of the Apes is from the '60s, and they're both sci-fi, so they're both slow. I just had this like mental block, and like Star Wars too. Star Wars is slow, kind of, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Watching, it was just a weird mental block that I had for some reason that made no sense whatsoever. But no, it's excellently paced, excellently acted.
Let's get to the meat of it. It's a great movie.
It is a great movie. Where do you put it? Where do you put it as far as science fiction movies?
Oh, wow. That's hard to. I hate ranking movies because I like so many. It's definitely in my top 5.
Of all movies or just science fiction?
Science fiction. Well, okay. Top 10 of all time.
See, it's the same thing with me. It's top 10 all time, probably like in that 7 to 8 range. I don't. It's 1 or 2. It's probably number 2 or 3 sci-fi wise. Just because obviously
I've probably seen it more than anything else besides possibly The Shining, maybe some of the Star Wars movies. Yeah, I think I've seen it more than anything.
Well, in Grease, but that's a different movie.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, different genre altogether. What did you think? I was listening. I'm leading you here somewhere, but the director mentioned something about it being cheesy when they were doing the Khan reveal with the little aliens. I thought they were great. I thought the movie. You know what makes this movie great? It's got.
You mean the SETI eels?
Yeah, whatever. I didn't know that's what they were called.
They're actually called SETI eels.
I did not know that.
That's the name of them. I don't know if it's mentioned in the movie, but if as all science fiction things, there becomes a complete universe where they make up stuff. But they are referred to as SETI eels.
Did not know that. Okay. We learn something new every day.
It's cheesy. I mean, maybe not the best animation, or not animation, but the little funny looking creature. It could have been done a little better, but not at that time.
I thought it was done great for the time. I thought, yeah. And what I also found interesting, and this kind of goes into the plot of the movie, about it being about old age and Shatner not wanting to do it because he doesn't want to be old and all that.
He's supposedly 49 in it.
Yeah, so he's supposedly, but
I don't think that's old.
No. But what was funny about that was apparently the original name of the movie was supposed to be To the Undiscovered Country, which is a Hamlet reference. I don't know that because I'm not a Shakespeare person, but the same guy ended up directing Undiscovered Country and then used it then. But I guess To the Undiscovered Country was about, dying, I guess, and growing old, yes, etc. So apparently,
even before that, it was penned as Vengeance of Khan. But Lucasfilms, because they were working on, it was still Revenge of the Jedi. Yeah. Because of the similarity, they had spoke to Paramount Films and made them drop that title because they thought it was too much like theirs.
Oh, okay. So I did not know that. He said that when they were making it, though, it was To the Undiscovered Country, and then he was in the editing room and found out they had changed it to Wrath of Kahn. So then, of course, he ended up using it later for Undiscovered Country. So just weird things like that.
Yeah, the production was all over the place on this. I mean, it was kind of weird. Well, first of all, they, of course, got rid of the creator, Roddenberry. He had nothing to do with this film. So then, that they had already written the script, decided that it was going to be based on the Space Seed show. They had a complete script and had never even talked to Ricardo Montalban about whether he wanted to do it or not.
No, I didn't know that. That's excellent, though.
Luckily, he was completely up for it. He had loved doing that and thought it was great and thought it worked well. And he was actually doing Fantasy Island at the time still, but he made himself available. Thank goodness, or we would have, who knows, we would have had a completely different Kahn.
Yeah, no, that would have not worked because he is the best part of this movie, I think. I mean, Shatner's great. I mean, Shatner's great. He's Shatner, but
and they never appear in the scenes together.
That is an excellent point.
They're never.
Wow. I didn't even think about that.
There was supposed to be one scene with them together, but that was in the original film when they started. Actually, Spock was going to die in the beginning of the movie.
I'd heard that, yeah.
And that just did not play well at all because what was going to happen was Kirk and Khan were actually going to have some kind of altercation together, and Spock was going to interfere and probably be killed at that time, saving his captain. But luckily that didn't work because I think it played much better letting him go through the whole thing and saving the whole Enterprise and the movie basically.
Oh yeah, I mean, I was thinking about it when I was watching it this week. It might be the best death in a movie, especially like a major character. Like the way it was treated, he died heroically. They gave him like the most epic send off. Like think about like Han Solo dying here recently in Force Awakens. It was, I mean, he did something great. He was trying to get his son back and everything, but this is probably the best that I can think of. The best death.
Oh, absolutely.
Ceremony, yeah, to anyone. And of course, it spawned a whole nother movie, which is not as bad as everyone says it is.
Well, it's not. And that kind of came from Leonard Nimoy, of course, only did this one if they promised to kill him off.
Right.
They promised him he would go out. He did, but as he was filming, he began having so much fun that it was his idea to plant that little bit of a seed that possibly he could come back when he does the mind meld with Dr. McCoy.
Mm-hmm.
He did not tell DeForest Kelley why they touched him there. He didn't know anything about that, didn't know why he did that, just because that's what they're doing. And then, of course, they filmed the scene of the photon torpedo landing on the Genesis planet. But that was kind of all his ideas. I think he had already decided he was going to come back because he enjoyed it so much.
Oh, okay. So excellent.
Smile.
You said what?
He got his smile back.
Oh, yes.
As much as a smile as a Vulcan can have, I guess.
Yeah, that's right. No emotions. Although, not that I'm a huge Trekkie or care. Kirstie Alley, Lieutenant Saavik, is crying at the funeral.
Well, they explained that as well.
Did they?
Not in the movie, but again, in your Star Trek universe, she cried because she's half Romulan. I didn't realize, I know that you're not a Trekkie, but I didn't realize that you still had this level of knowledge. I just suck up stupid things and remember it. That's all I can tell you.
There's nothing wrong with it. That's why the show is going to work.
Let's touch on one thing. Let's touch on one urban myth.
What?
That was not prosthetics. That was really Ricardo Montalban's chest.
Oh, I know. Actually, the director in the commentary said the one question that I'm asked the most is are those real? And he said yes.
Yes. People have tried to pick that apart. There's some scene supposedly where I think he kind of bends and it kind of crinkles funny, but his age and maybe it was makeup from because I believe it's when he has a wound on him, but that was absolutely 100. They said his training regiment his entire life was ridiculous. So he was well shaped for this, and those were his real breasts.
Well, what's about his breasts? One of the times they're most prevalent is the reveal scene. When he takes off everything and you find out Botany Bay and everything.
Yes.
Apparently, that was day one of filming. Was that scene?
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was the first scene they did, which is like probably the best scene from the movie. Maybe. I mean, it's
certainly one of them.
Yeah, I mean, that's the weird thing. Like, the film is incredibly quotable. It's, I mean, quotable, excellent scene after excellent scene. But I was thinking about it. I can't think of one other than I guess maybe the capsule at the end. I can't think of an iconic like shot, like just frame. You know?
Um, well, I do like the when the Khan is crawling toward the Genesis machine and he has that upward look, and he's bloody and his face is missing half of it, and I do kind of like that scene.
That is good.
That one shot, but scene wise, the scene that always gives me goosebumps, if you will, is when Kirk bites into the apple.
What is it?
It is the epitome of he is one of the coolest people to ever be on film.
Is he cooler than Han Solo?
In that scene, yes.
Okay. Is he cooler than Indiana Jones? No.
In all scenes except for when Indy pulls out the gun and shoots the guy because he's tired of fighting.
Yeah, which is great because it's Abbott, of course.
Absolutely. That is his apple.
What did you think in comparison to the other Star Trek things? Because what's obviously one of the biggest differences for this movie is the uniforms. Do you like classic Star Trek, or do you like this, which is much more realistic military, everyone matches?
Yeah, I didn't mind the military look. I was so glad that they got out of that pale gray and just depressing first film colors where everything was white and gray and just ugh. So I was glad that they put some color back into it. I thought the series kind of looked military. I mean, it definitely had but it had insignia. It had bars on it for your ranking. Yes, it had different colors for where you worked, but yeah, I liked it.
It was much more like sci-fi military, and this was much more almost Earth-based, like reality-based military. Yes. So, but no, I love the uniforms in this. And what was I'm reading through some notes here real quick. First day, I didn't watch all the director's commentary, but I watched half the film with it just to kind of get some interesting things. I will say this isn't really about the movie, but Don Meyer, who I think this was like the first film he directed, the first or second film, which is kind of crazy to think. So it's like one of his first films.
Was it Nicholas Meyer?
Was it Nicholas Meyer or Don Meyer? I know it was Meyer.
I think it's Nicholas.
Right. Well, this is like one of his first film, I think he did. So the guy's like not a Star Trek fan. It's his first or second film, and just knocks it out of the park. It's absurd. It makes no sense, and it doesn't make any sense that he didn't. I mean, maybe he didn't want to, but he didn't do that. He didn't have that many other credits as a director. I mean, he did Discovered Country, and he did a bunch of other stuff that I'd never heard of.
I mean, he had to have gone back and watched some of the old things. If not, they really are. Maybe someone watched something because
he said he watched some of it, but
okay. I mean, he had to because the relationship between the Doctor and Kirk and Spock and Kirk, all those just hit. I mean, it was exactly the way it was in the thing. It was mostly serious, but they definitely had the comedy when they needed to, the lightheartedness when they had to. I think he did a little more than just a little bit. I think he watched it pretty in depth.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm sure once he found out he had the project, I'm sure he like dove into it. He was there was a couple of war films he had said he was basing it off of, especially like submarine films and stuff like that as well, which I think comes off pretty obvious when you're looking at it.
Yeah, it's a little Run Deep.
You said it's like what?
Run Silent, Run Deep. It was a Clark Gable movie. There was a submarine movie that I'm pretty sure did kind of act like this.
Well, what I was this isn't about the movie, but just about the director was what was interesting. He was talking about art and like making art and making the magic essentially. And I thought it was weird when he said not his process, but his thoughts on art was that art is the best thing about art is what's left out. He said, when you listen to music, there's no pictures, so you have to imagine it. When you look at a painting, there's no movement, so you have to you're participating in the art And he said movies are like the worst thing ever because they make you passive because they give you everything. Again, nothing to do with the movie, but just kind of an interesting perspective from someone who created this.
That's the whole reason I watch them.
I don't want to do anything. I don't want to do anything. Just show me the pictures, and I sit here and watch. I guess we kind of have to the big elephant in the room. What did you think of them using a new Khan in the reboot movies?
Yeah, I didn't care much for that. Especially when they completely changed. I mean, I know it's an alternate reality, and I know they've got to change some things, but
that's a cop out. But yes,
yeah, it was pretty bad. Nothing about the actor. I don't mind him, but I just it was bad. Actually, to tell you the truth, I don't even really. I've seen it, but I don't remember much about that movie.
Well, that's all you need to say.
Just trying to ignore the fact that they were trying to tell me this was Khan because that was not Khan.
No, it's which is sad. Actually, I don't know. I own some of the books. They had I think it was a trilogy of books about Khan, and it was about him basically becoming the prince and taking over and all that. And they were excellent books. I can't remember the names of them.
The Rise of Kahn or the
yeah. I think you bought them for me for Christmas one year.
Yeah,
for my birthday or something. But yeah, they were excellent. I don't really have anything else to add about this movie. It's excellent, and everyone should go watch it because.
Did they explain how Khan knew Chekhov when Chekhov wasn't even in that season?
So the director kind of said, yeah. Basically, he kind of just said, "Don't let the facts get in the way of a good story." It was basically
background. Supposedly, if you read the anthology of Star Trek, that Chekhov started in the engine room, and he was working in the engine part of the starship at that time. So,
yeah, he basically said, "I don't care." There was a couple things actually, I guess, that some hardcore Star Trek fans had called him on. That was one of them. And there was a couple other ones, and he just was like, "Yeah, just whatever." I wanted to make a good movie, basically.
I just ignore him. Again, I'm not a Trekkie, I guess, as some people say.
You just like this movie, and you.
I just like this movie, absolutely. And yeah. I don't even mind when they went and saved the whales. I thought that was good.
I never saw that one. I've only seen 1, 2, and 3 of the originals.
To hear Spock say "double dumbass on you" just really cracked me up.
No, I haven't seen. I didn't see 4. I didn't see 5. I didn't see Undiscovered Country, and was it Generations after that?
One week you might have your homework.
I might. So when are we going to be doing this again? We should probably hash this out here.
Whenever you want to.
Well, I mean, do we want to make this like a weekly thing? Every other week? I think every other week is reasonable.
Yeah, that's good for now.
Okay. Do you have your movie picked out for it? I think I asked you this the other day when we were talking about this. Do you have your movie picked out?
Absolutely.
Okay, I picked mine out today as well. I need to rewatch it so that I can get some information on it. And then we'll be back. We'll pitch each other and the audience, and I'll probably put like a poll up afterwards, like I said, who did the best pitching or whatever. But that's episode 1 in the books. Done.